presenter, and creative entrepreneur. Over the years, I have met up with successful Africans in business, fashion, lifestyle, and entertainment in and outside of the continent. I discovered that our success stories are endless. I have decided to unveil them one by one. Join me on Africa Unfocused as I talk on how Africans are making Africa the future and why you should be a part. Africa Unfocused, sharing the stories of the African successful.
Isn't this a kind of well, if this isn't a kind of hey everybody, poof. Welcome everybody to this lovely Tuesday, as I should say. For me, it feels like Thursday. I don't know why, but I had this interesting day with a client in the talk today, and I kept talking about today was being Thursday, and he said, you know what? Today has that Thursday kind of vibe, but it probably has to do with being hectic with women about business. But hey, we're here on this beautiful Tuesday with again one of our most inspiring talks yet. I'm your host, Miss Aba, and you're watching High Radio. And as we have promised, now we have shifted, the Africa Unfocus on a Sunday. And because of the theme of Women About Business being so grand and being so interesting, engaging, and so much more, we have taken that to a Tuesday. We have phenomenal women lined up for you to inspire you, to help you as you navigate your way, being female, being impactful, and doing business. High Radio, the voice of the next generation. Remember that, the relaunch of everything airing from our studio, new, revamped, and all kinds of fabulous looking in the city of Amsterdam. We'll be launching this Saturday. So we kind of have like a party at the radio station. We're inviting everybody to be a part. And all of our shows will be coming back. So in the meantime, we said, you know what, Women About Business is still as important. So we will be airing from home. And we found out that, the most interesting conversations happen when we just sit down, lockdown mode, and we invite, the best of the best women around in business. Of course, myself and Kimberly Ofori, one and only skill up consultant, and so much more. Oh my gosh, so much is packaged in my co-host. And without further ado, and before we going to announce our next guest, let me just make sure that I get Kimberly here on so that we get to talking about our topic today.
Yeah.
Hello, Kimberly.
Hey girl, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm liking this. Is it like a sand beach brown,
I
top that you're
know
wearing?
this
I
dress
like it.
has a story because I bought it, I think 6 months ago at ASOS. No branding here. I'm not getting paid. And then I decided that I didn't like the dress because it's a full dress. Then
Right.
today I was like, I have absolutely nothing to wear. That's how I feel, right? When your closet is full, but it's like nothing to wear. And I was like, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna throw this on. And I've been getting the most compliments. So sometimes, life throws you a
Unex-
gem.
yeah. Unexpected things happen, like them good ones, and that could includes a good outfit.
Exactly. I love this color on you, by the way. I'm loving the hair. I
Thank
mean,
you.
yeah, I'm here for that. I'm here for that. And
Thank
I'm
you.
happy to
Thank
be
you.
here.
That exactly. That's the women about business spirit. You compliment each other. You're like, hey, girl, I see you. Yeah, yeah. You keep that vibe going. So awesome. So how has been your day? I'm sure business has been keeping you busy as usual.
Yeah, it's been interesting. Today was one of those days where you just full on having virtual meetings. that I kind of
Right.
felt like the first phase of when COVID happened and everybody was transitioning to getting virtual meetings in, and you're just planning your day back to back with these meetings. That's what I did today. I don't know why. I do know
Yeah.
better, but it was very. I
Yeah.
feel like it was very. I always feel less productive when I'm just in meetings, but at the same time, there were a lot of insights shared, a lot of decisions made. So yeah, it was an
Yeah.
interesting day. I'm gonna go no screens tomorrow, but for today, I think yeah,
Hey.
mission complete.
Who's
How
responsible for that? Was that our talk with Vivian that's gonna come up? Is it
no,
that's responsible
actually,
for it?
well, she reinforced, I think, the idea. She reminded me that you can do it whenever. But remember, I went offline for like a month in July, and after that, I decided
Yeah.
to to really tell myself that when I feel like it's getting too much, you tune off,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's a good way of disciplining and putting good set of boundaries on whatever it is that you're doing as a especially a woman in business.
yeah.
Speaking of business, we have an interesting we have an interesting special guest that we have here today. You know, a lady from the cosmetics industry. Not just that alone, but a woman that just wears many hats. And I love how the women that we, seem to get on board here, talking to us, engaging with us, are the ones that are just, mom, entrepreneur. They're doing this side of business, they're doing that side of business, and they are managing it. They have overcome the hurdles of managing different streams of incomes properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I really love that. And today we actually have an remarkable entrepreneur. She is like the founder of a product that I swear by. I'm like a low key ambassador for her brand because I've got my friend hooked. I got my friend hooked on. I swear by their lip balm. Oh my gosh, I can't do without. And their skin products. And I've hooked up my friend and she's always telling me, when are you going to Ghana? When are you coming back? Because that's how I always, bring in, boxes of stuff and bring that with me. My auntie, my mom, I hooked them all up on their lip balm and their liquid black soap. So like,
Well,
it's I'm a low key ambassador for this.
this doesn't sound low key to me. You're like, yeah, you're up here. This is good. I love that. I mean, it's something
Really,
else to get people raving about your product. I think that's something that's so underestimated. That
yeah,
that mouth to mouth marketing. I mean, you're a marketing and communications woman. It's
yeah.
so much more valuable than any clicks, like, share you're gonna get.
Sure, sure, absolutely, absolutely. Highly competitive, but also very rewarding if you ask me. And well, without further ado, let me just tell people who this phenomenal woman is. She's a lady, and she's connecting with us from I think she's on the continent in the motherland, but we'll ask her in a bit. She's an award-winning beauty entrepreneur, hailed as an African skincare trailblazer by Forbes magazine. Her beauty brand has been featured in a plethora of publications such as Elle magazine. And not only is she a savvy businesswoman, she's also the founder of any other initiatives, which we will also talk about. Her company, which I have been praising so much, R&R Luxury, the one and only, is the perfect combination of authentic products and the answer to many skincare issues. And her passion for natural skincare products and PR, Valerie has created a significant brand that has been recognized all over the world. And that's really what I found phenomenal. African made, recognized all over the world, which is also the topic of today. Expanding her brand from Africa, US to now the UK. And this is an exciting time for us to be talking to her. Let me just get her on board. And wherever your virtual applause can be placed, give an applause for Lady Madame Valerie Obaze. Hello, Valerie. How are you?
Hello, hi.
Hi,
How are
Valerie.
Great to have you here. How are you doing? think the volume on your side is a bit low. Can you hear us properly? Let me just see if the connection
I
is.
can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Okay, better
that's
now.
great. Yes.
I think my finger maybe. I'm using my phone. I was saying that I just left a fashion show that was supposed to start 2 hours ago, and it
Oh,
didn't because this is Africa. So
I was
now I'm
about
just in
to
the back
say that was
office.
African time.
So I'm in the back office doing this interview. So apologies for any noise in the background, and if the connection is shaky, hopefully it'll be good.
We'll roll with
sure,
it. We'll
sure.
roll with it. That's how we do. So thank you so much again for taking the time here. Really appreciate it. Really excited about the topic and about just listening and hearing more about your insights and the journey that you've been on so far. So thanks so much for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, ladies, for having me and inviting me to share my
Always,
story with you all.
always, always. And that's proper business that you would even take, the backstage of a whole fashion show and still be about your business, doing your talks and everything. So kudos to that.
You have
Mhm.
to manage. You have to make it work. Balance.
Was that for the photo shoot that you were doing today? Because I saw it on your Instagram. We're like all fabulously prepping.
Oh, no, that one was actually last week. But this week, there's a high fashion African boutique in Accra called The Lot. And they feature all African brands, different brands from around Africa. And there's a showcase today from a Nigerian designer called Emmy Casbit. And I had to come
Mhm.
and support. So I was here early and on time, but the show is going on in the background.
I love
But
it.
his pieces are
Absolutely love it.
awesome. The store's awesome. So we got to make it work.
Great. That's the right spirit for it. I would really like to know how has been. Well, I know from wherever you are, lockdown is kind of lifting. How has the lockdown been treating you? How has this period been for you, business, and just Valerie as a whole?
I think the lockdown, we've been out of lockdown for a long time now, but we had very strict rules. So even though our lockdown was only for 3 weeks, it came early and it finished early. But, the government decided that a lockdown wasn't conducive for many of the people who operate informal business here. They can't,
Yeah.
they have for dinner what they make during the day, right? So if they're locked up at
Yeah.
home, they'll literally go hungry. And as much as they tried to make sure everybody had a meal every day, it's, some things were just not possible and it's only sustainable for a certain period of time, right? So
Yeah.
they had to think about the informal sector, which is a large, majority of the people here. And so they lifted it after 3 weeks, even though, the numbers were not too high. And
Yeah.
hopefully they had it under control because they were taking contact tracing very seriously. So we're actually what, like 4 months since lockdown, and we've
Hmm.
had mandatory mask wearing and limits on social activity, which has been lifted. Everything's been lifted slowly but surely. So now we can get together, we can have small fashion shows, this kind of thing. But masks are mandatory in public. So the situation's been pretty okay here. It's not been as bad as other places, so we're really grateful for that. Personally, the whole situation when we first went into lockdown was very scary, as I'm sure for many people, pretty much the unknown, not knowing what to expect, your kids getting pulled out of school. Also, schools are still closed here.
Yeah.
The kids did not go back to
Yeah.
school this September. We're still virtual, which is different. Most places have gone back now, but thankfully we're not. So I'm now a homeschool teacher as well as a businesswoman. So I think that was one of the tough things for me, juggling being teacher. I'm a really bad teacher, a really bad school teacher anyway. And so it was grating on my children, well, on our relationship, but we got through it. And this
Right.
time, we've just taken a few more steps to make it a bit more streamlined. But
Yeah.
it was a period where we had to just all stop, be still, and think about how we were going to continue. No one expected it to last this long,
Yeah.
right? We all thought, oh, it'll be done in a couple of weeks, everyone will be fine. But somehow we've made it through and we're getting stronger. We're building our brand and, we're just
Yeah.
making sure that we can reach our consumer directly. So, stores were closed for many weeks. And so e-commerce became really, even though it's been big, it just got bigger.
Hmm.
And so we needed to make sure that we had access to our products online. So where there were gaps, we made sure that we could fill them. But you still have issues in the supply chain where borders are closed and
Yeah.
it's difficult to freight and send out your consignments, etc. But we're making it, and we're really, really grateful that we can. And our shop at the airport, we have a store at the Accra airport, which has been closed. It
Yes, you
just
do.
reopened. It just
I love
reopened.
it.
Oh, thank you. It just reopened on the 1st of this month. So we were closed for 5 good months. So we had people out of work for a
Ooh.
while, which was really uncomfortable. But we made it. Everyone is back, and we're just working our hardest to make this year count.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So how did you deal with this, the physical store aspect of it? Did you kind of reposition your staff for the online business, or was it just completely kind of on hold?
So initially, what we have quite a few staff for our store in Accra, and we have a few at our store in Lagos. So we literally shut down, and we kept them paid for as long as we could. But after that, we had to just put them on hold, and we stayed in touch, and we did as much as we could just to let them know, to reassure them that as soon as operations were back up and running, that they still had a job with us. We
Yeah.
did reposition some people to work from the head office so that we could do deliveries. But even then, it was just 2 or 3 members of staff to make sure that we could fulfill orders. But yeah, that was basically all that we could really do. But we did most of our like administrational team, the managerial staff. We've all been working from home consistently throughout, no breaks for any of us. But it's been busy, and actually the time has gone really, really fast, and we found that we've had so much more to do than if it wasn't happening. So we've been busy. Thankfully, the shop staff are back in, and slowly but surely we're getting back to normal.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm really curious. One on a follow up question on this is that how did the lockdown affect the business in terms of your positioning? Did you get new insights, maybe processes or things that were on the table that we were gonna fix and or do differently from next year that were either ramped up or completely discarded? Some of, I mean, in the work that I do, a lot of the companies that I speak to, the founders found out while on lockdown, like this might be a good time to fix this issue, or to ramp up this department, or
Yeah.
to you know how was that for you?
I think for us, the main thing was to ensure that we were online. So
Yeah.
where the way our business model is set up, we're based in Accra, but we originally started in Nigeria. So we have a really strong following in Nigeria. Accra
Right.
was still growing, so we only had the physical store. We didn't have online. So the minute we felt that a lockdown was looming, we quickly, had our website designed and made sure that everything was online, set up a delivery
Mm.
operation so that we could do deliveries when they were allowed, because during lockdown
Right.
nobody,
It
unless you were
wasn't.
food service, could do
Right.
deliveries. So everyone was locked down for a
Yeah.
short while, but after that we went back to delivering. So that sped up the process of making sure we were online. We were really dilly-dallying with getting online in Accra, well, in Ghana,
Right.
and we just bit the bullet and did it. And with that, we found that we also had to update all of our other websites. So our Nigerian website, our UK site, we now brought everything together and made it more streamlined and updated the look, and just made it more cohesive across all the different countries. So that was something that I think maybe if COVID didn't happen, may have taken a bit longer. In
Yeah.
terms of our departments, we run really, really a tight ship. So everybody's valued, everybody's needed. Where people's departments were closed, we still kind of kept people engaged and found ways that they could still take part and be involved so that no one was left out. I think for a company that's just come out of COVID, we're probably hiring more people than we would have had to if we didn't.
Right. Right.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, so it's been good. It's been good. I mean, sales definitely were down for a long stretch of time, but we know that
Yeah.
the trajectory is looking up. And another thing that
Yeah.
did aid in the awareness of the brand was the Black Lives Matter movement, which was started obviously in America and has trickled down to the UK, and also the effects of that have been felt here as well. So we have a PR company in the UK that we work with since the beginning of the year, and so they've really been able to harness the kind of the wave that's come with that and made sure that
Yeah.
we've actually got quite a bit of attention and coverage from that, which has been a blessing in disguise. who knew that, such a tragic incident would bring so much attention and so much visibility to black-owned brands
Yeah.
where before we were almost invisible.
Yeah. So it's actually been overall, it's been very, because I'm hearing you talk, you've been quite flexible and hands on with what's next. Let's just get it going.
Yeah.
You're very cool about that. Where does that come from? That kind of calmness and maybe even a somewhat spontaneous, you know, uh, um, reaction to it.
Honestly, my calmness genuinely comes from my faith, which is that, at the end of the day, God knows best. So whatever is happening, leave it in the
Yeah,
hands of God. There's literally nothing. There's nothing with all of our might, all of our knowledge, all of our education, all of our years in industry
yeah,
that no one predicted this. No
yeah,
genius, no scientist, no one knew that this was going to happen. So there's some situations where you know that you have zero control over what is going to happen.
yeah,
So all you can do is adapt, pivot, see how you can make it work through the hard times. And thankfully, our working environment and our company culture is very dynamic. No one sticks to just one specific role and doesn't do anything else. Everyone chips in where they need to, and everyone's happy to do their part because they're all part of the big story. They all believe in the brand and where it's going. We're a small but emerging brand, and everyone that works with us is like a member of the family. So I consult everybody on everything. I make no decisions by myself, and that way, I've got a family that's backing me, and of course, I've got a God that is watching over everything that I
yeah,
do. So that's it. That's how I can stay calm. But there are
Wow.
times when you're freaking out, of course, but there's
yeah.
only so much that you can do. What's freaking out going to do for you? Literally
Nothing.
nothing. Nothing. So all you can do is, pray and know that there's a higher power in control that is going to take over and make sure that you make it through. So that's it for me.
I love
That's the
that.
spirit.
Thank
That's the
you.
spirit.
It's the
For those
truth.
of you, yeah, it is. It is. For those of you who just tuned in, welcome to Women About Business, a weekly talk with myself and Kimberly Ofori on entrepreneurial women that are making an impact, growing their business, and so much more. And we're delighted to have an interesting topic of how to turn African made products into a world recognized brand. And we're talking to a phenomenal lady who has been one who is responsible for flipping her brand into an international recognized business. So thank you for tuning in. Of course, we're going to revert to your questions. So make sure that you drop them because before we leave off Valerie to enjoy her high fashion show, we will make sure that you get your questions answered. And of course, if you're listening on Facebook, make sure that you reshare it on your timelines. Valerie, I just want to know. Let's just go way back to when you started off, because I know you are an expert in communication. You're a brand specialist. You've worn many hats. Seen seen other great brands in Nigeria develop and grow. How did you get into the business of beauty, and how was it seeing your own brand grow to this place?
Okay, so it goes back about 11 years now. Well, more if we talk about my PR career. So I studied communications at university. And when I came out, I was working first in the music industry, in the PR side of things. And then I moved on to consumer PR because that period, music was going through um, a whole crisis. The music industry was going through a whole crisis, and a lot of the record labels were merging at the time. And I was fresh out of university doing an internship at Warner Music. And clearly, there wasn't much future there unless you were willing to stick around for some years for everything to settle down. So I moved into
Yeah.
consumer PR, did that in
Hmm.
fashion, beauty, PR for many years, and until I set up my own company in 2008 with one of my friends in London. So we were one of the first young black PR female duos in London, and we were working with really small startup like online e-commerce had just started growing then. So we we're working with some cute online fashion and beauty brands, But then a year later, I moved to Nigeria because my husband, well, my then fiance, had moved there and to work with his family. And for me, once we
Yeah.
got married, it was definitely a case of me moving over to where he was. So I'm Ghanaian, but he's
Yeah.
Nigerian, heritage wise. But we both grew up in London. So when he moved there, once we got married, I moved to Lagos as well. But the beauty of that was that I have so many Nigerian friends and even family that I grew up with in London. So once a lot of people had moved back at that point. So some of my best friends had moved to Nigeria, to Lagos specifically. And so I was moving there
Right.
knowing that not only did I have my husband, I also had family and I also had good friends out there. So I started working. I had a PR client in the UK, which is an American jewelry designer. And he was Nigerian by heritage and
Yeah.
he just entered the Nigerian market. So he carried me along and said, look, come and do my PR there. I'll show you the ropes. I'll introduce you to some people. And he really did do that. He introduced me to all the right people in the press and in the fashion and beauty industry. And so once I stepped into Lagos, it wasn't long before I met some of Lagos's best fashion designers. So I worked immediately with a brand called Tiffany Amber. I don't know if you're
Hmm.
familiar with them, but they're one of Nigeria's first ready-to-wear fashion labels. I
Yeah.
worked with some of the retail brands, Chris Air, my jewelry designer client, another one called Tebazil, who's a Nigerian based in LA. And so I had a good little unit of fashion and beauty clients that I was freelancing for, but I was also pregnant with my first child. So,
Okay.
that happened pretty quick. And so I knew that with the working in the service industry and working in PR, your time is really not your own. You're very much, you know, answerable to your clients at any time of the day
I
and any
know.
hour
I
of the
know.
day. So,
Yeah.
it was great. And I continued doing it for a while, even after founding my brand. But, after we grew, I did have to step back from my PR activity and focus on R&R. But R&R started after I had my first child, which was my daughter. And
Yeah.
I just needed, I wanted to create a brand that, I found moving from London and living in Nigeria, I found that so much of the beauty products and so many things were just imported from the UK or America, but nothing was being homegrown. But at the same time, we had all these amazing raw ingredients that the West were buying from us as raw materials and using it in their beauty ingredients. So I didn't understand why we couldn't have our own, beauty brands or fashion. I knew fashion was definitely already dynamic, actually. The music industry was already doing so well, the film industry was doing well, but beauty was still a growing industry at the time. And after having my daughter, I discovered that we could have shea butter in the liquid form, which was shea oil.
Yeah.
And before that, I didn't know it existed. And for me, shea butter was always something I knew was great for the skin, but was pretty hard to use.
Yeah.
And especially if you lived in the UK or in cold temperatures. So that's
Yeah.
how that was my light bulb moment, so to speak, when I saw that you could have it in an oil. And I was a fan of oils already. On my newborn, I was already using olive oil. And for me, that wasn't sustainable because olive oil is not from Ghana or from Nigeria. So
No.
we thought, look, shea is here. It's sustainable. It grows in the wild. It's not going to finish anytime soon. And it has really, really amazing qualities. And, everybody uses it. All the hard work has already been done in terms of how good shea is. But now I wanted to create a brand that was African owned, that looked like anything from the West, because most of the time people are using shea in hair products, but not in skincare.
Yeah.
So that was something fairly new to the industry at the time, and that was pretty exciting. But I just started with one product, gave it to friends and family, said if you like it, come back and buy it,
Yeah.
and that's literally how it started. And of course, with the
Yeah.
PR background, I knew how to market my products as well. But it's gone through many iterations, different
Yeah.
logos, different packaging before we got to our final look and feel. So yeah.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. I think where did where was my first? I think it was at the airport or just right before at an event. And what I really loved was that you had your salespeople, there representing and explaining how the brand works.
Yeah.
And they didn't even like stalk you or anything. They were more or less like, oh, you need this or you need that. And then I tried out, was it the lip balm? I swear by that lip balm. Oh gosh. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just buy a couple of because this is really, really good. And one thing that also really stood out to me was the packaging. You know, it was, and it has also like evolved so much to this point. You know, even
Mm-hmm.
if I look at it, because it was a few years ago. Um, what was the process like? Taking it, you know, you starting having an idea, you bringing it to maybe stores or events or bringing it to people because the beauty industry is regarded highly competitive, kind of hard to finally get things started as in terms of finally getting a bench, you know, where you're a product placement, however they call it. How was the process like? How was it? Did you have to meet people? Did you already have a network? Did you have to, you know, give out a whole batch of your products? How was that process like?
Actually, for me, the beauty of starting the brand in Africa, in Lagos at the time, I think really helped because it came at a period where people were really looking at Lagos for beauty, well, for fashion
Yeah,
trends and music trends and everything. So loads of people are looking to Lagos for inspiration. And for me, it was, you know, when they say build your own table, it was
yeah,
literally that because it didn't really exist before. Like I said, they already were so dynamic in other areas. But when it came to beauty, it was very much about like mass market products that were sort of targeted towards skin lightening and or just
yeah,
regular everyday moisture. But they weren't
mhm,
really
yeah,
harnessing the beauty of the naturally grown raw materials. So for me, I really saw the opportunity there and creating a brand that could be a heritage brand. And I did think it was going to be a wholesale and export product, but funny enough, the market was so open and, you know, appreciative of what we did that it ended up becoming so busy in Lagos that we didn't have time to even work on our export plan. So for years,
right,
you know, initially I think I just approached because we didn't have our own store. There was an online marketplace called Jumia who were new to the market, and I
yeah,
approached them about stocking our product. And then there was this cute beauty store in Victoria Island in Lagos called Blush that had just opened up. I read an article about the girl that owned it in a magazine, and I just sent her a tweet on a message on Twitter, and she came back and she'd already heard about the products and she said she'd love to have our products in store. We should have a meeting, and that's how it all kind of kicked off. We had an event, and that those were our first two stockists, online and in a store. But shortly after, we opened our own store in Lagos because the space became available that was cute, perfect for what we were doing, and we took
yeah,
it because I just take opportunities when they come along. I don't always plan that. Oh, on this year we're going to do this, and in 6 months it will look like this,
sure,
or in 5 years, because I know that the fact things change all the time. So I think it almost
yeah,
benefits me to be that kind of lastminute.com person because
yeah,
especially with COVID, you know, I was able to quickly adapt to things. I hadn't put too much investment into things that were happening in the future and stuff. So I think we were able
yeah,
to adapt and, you know, change according to what the needs of our customer was. And we really tried to source everything as much as possible from local companies. And we even sourced our packaging, our plastic packaging. We just went for something super, super simple and then branded it up so it looked very luxurious. And
yeah,
yeah, but I mean, after a while, we did have to source our packaging from elsewhere just because there's only one type of plastic bottle in the whole market. So
all
everyone
right,
was starting to look the same. So everyone was going to the same
wow,
supplier. So it just got to the point where we had to diversify. And if we could make our own plastics, trust me, we would have. But we're not quite there yet, but maybe one day.
yeah,
So I think I've lost my train of thought there. But I think, you know, for us, it's just about being adaptable and being ready to
hmm,
innovate and change things as and when they come, using your network and also not being afraid to reach out to people. Thank God for social media. Instagram wasn't huge when we started, but we were one of the early people on Instagram. We used Twitter, Facebook, whatever it was that we could do to reach out to people. And then the power of the influencer came along as well. Before there was nothing
yeah,
like that. It was all about being featured in a magazine. But then all these
yeah,
great, amazing beauty influencers who were of Nigerian or African heritage, but influencing in Los Angeles or Houston or wherever they were, and they got to hear about the products when they come home for Christmas or get introduced. by, you know, a
Yeah.
mutual friend, and then they'd speak about it on their YouTube channel, and all of a sudden, you know, we had all of this interest from America and other places. So it very much grew organically for many, many years until it became, I stepped back from my PR duties and it became an intentional full-time role, and we started increasing our staff strength, and just step by step we've got in there. So this year we launched in the UK and Europe for the first time. We've been testing the market for a while, but this January we finally, you know, launched there, and it's been really, really good. We've had great feedback and great, you know, press, and it's been
Mm,
really remarkable considering what this year has actually been like. So I'm really grateful
hmm.
that we had that sorted and ready.
Yeah. Very necessary. And also, good thing that you came up with the liquid black soap, because until I found yours, I was, you know what I did? I had like the bar, and then I I kind of cut, the bits off and then soaked
Yeah.
it in warm water so that I
No
could have the
way.
liquid version.
Yeah.
Really.
Everybody was doing that. And you know, the
Yeah.
funny thing about this is, and I want to come back to something you said earlier, but just because you mentioned the whole melting thing, I think for me, being born and raised in the Netherlands to a Ghanaian father, a Suriname mother, but not knowing the Ghanaian culture, when
Mm.
family would send things over, I'm like, so what am I supposed to do with this? And it was
Yes,
just
exactly.
really kind of, and then when you, and at the time there was no YouTube, or wasn't as, there
Hmm.
weren't as many videos on that. And so it's like, okay,
Yeah.
I guess I just rub it on, right? It's just been such an, even, if I look to what the market is like now, and a lot of my Caucasian friends, colleagues telling me that, they use black soap for this and shea
Hmm.
butter for that. It's a completely different industry. And I think it's what has probably benefited a lot of the African brands coming up now, is the fact that a lot of these other companies were pushing shea and all of that to the market, kind of putting hints of it in their shampoo and a little bit of it in their
Exactly.
balms, right? And so educating the market in that sense. So I think that
Yeah.
was really interesting to see, an interesting move. So you mentioned something
Mhm.
which I picked up, that it sounds like it's um, very natural comes to you, which is just looking at opportunities and going for it. And you
Right.
mentioned that that's the kind of person you are. That's how you've been doing it, and it's worked quite well for you.
Hmm.
I also believe that this is one of the biggest hurdles for female entrepreneurs. In the research that I've been doing, we are finding out that not necessarily that women are risk averse, but we calculate our risks, right? And there's a difference. And
Yeah.
so then
Yeah.
when we have calculated our risks, then we're like, okay, now we have the pros and cons. We have, this could happen,
Hmm.
in this factor and category. And while we're doing that, somebody else has jumped, right? And so my
Exactly.
question, my question to
Mhm.
you is, have you always been like this, or is this something that comes naturally to you?
I think I've always had entrepreneurial spirit. I've always been like that, and that's why I think I never really had like a specific career in mind growing up. I could never tell you, oh, I want to be this when I grow up. I just knew that it would click somewhere along the line, you know. And yes, I studied communications. Yes, I went into PR, but I don't even think the two are really connected. I just think that I knew what I wanted to do, the kind of industry I wanted to be in. I wanted to be in creatives, but I'm not the creative. I wanted to work with the creatives.
Right.
And I just would find opportunities as they came along, and my eyes were always open to them. Even as a young girl, I've always worked. Even as a teenager, from the age of 15, I was always finding jobs because I wanted to be able to be independent, and not rely on my parents. So I always had some kind of gig going. And it's the same when I was in university. I worked my whole way through university because I didn't want to rely. I don't like relying on anyone else. I prefer to rely on my own instincts. And if I make the mistakes, then so be it. I can't blame anybody or be
Yeah.
waiting for somebody to call me or whatever. We just keep it moving. And that's just naturally how I am. I'm
Right.
not 100%, risk averse. Like, I don't go and take crazy, crazy risks. I'm still pretty, calculated with my risk, but I do explore different options. Sometimes I do things a bit too early. Some things
Mhm.
benefit from a bit of hindsight, but you also learn from those things as well. So thankfully, because they're not too risky, you don't lose too much. But
Right.
at the
Right.
end of the day, it also works for you in a lot of situations. So I think I benefit from that. And I'm constantly, even though R&R is my baby, I work on so many other things at the same time. And so I'm constantly looking
Yeah.
for the business opportunity in every single thing. And you know, the beauty of living in an emerging market is that there's so much to explore. There's so many businesses out here that people could be doing if they've got just the
Yeah.
mindset. You know, it's not even about the finances. You can start with very little and do a lot. So if something's completely missing, then that's your opportunity to come and work with it. So for me, I think it's actually even more exciting to be working in this kind of environment than where, you know, I initially started, because it's probably saturated there. And what you're saying about African products, you know, so many people are using, you know, so many people from different backgrounds are using Shea. And yes, like I said, Shea had already done the hard work for us before we started. It wasn't like we
Yes.
invented Shea. We didn't even invent liquid black
Yeah.
soap. I love to say that we did, but we didn't. But for
Yeah.
me, I see it as, what would I use as a modern woman, you know, working mother? Have I got time to be messing around with a bar of soap, or, you know, a bowl of the Alata Samla, how it comes? Or do I want a shower
Yeah.
gel? Yes, I'm going to take the shower gel version. Do I want to be heating up my whipped shea butter on a pot, you know, and melting it down and doing all of that stuff? No, I want the one that's ready when I wake up in the morning, have my shower, and it's ready for me to use.
Exactly.
So, and I think there's, you know,
Yeah.
hundreds of thousands or millions of people that are like me, that you know, time poor, and but still want the best for their skin, and still want to know where their ingredients come from, and still want to know that the products they're using are benefiting communities, and that, you know, it's a
Yeah.
woman that owns the brand, and, you know, just all those different factors that come in. And I think that there's so many people out there like that. So I'm just happy to be in the midst of all of that. And we're always going to be dynamic. We're always going to change and add new angles to what we do. And we're celebrating our 10th anniversary next month. So it's quite
Oh,
Amazing.
exciting
congrats.
time for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it still
That's
feels like the
in
beginning.
itself.
That's what I always say. You know, the journey's just begun for us. So
Yeah.
it's good. People think
Yeah.
that you get up and say, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm starting a business overnight," and you get famous and do loads of sales. It does happen for
Yeah.
some, but for the majority of us, it's slow and steady wins the race. And I think we'll be around for a lot longer.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I love that you mentioned the 10 years. It's something that I wanted to also hint
Hmm.
on, but also really kind of dive into, because as we know, especially with the coming up of social media, Silicon Valley, there has been this notion that yes, overnight success is a thing. Even the
Hmm.
ones, even the startups or the found in the companies that we're finding that seemingly have had a short history, and are now doing well. You know, there were years in development, underground, things
Absolutely.
that we don't know, failed businesses, maybe revamping different, names that you also find. And now all of a sudden they were founded last year, but really they were founded 10 years ago. There's
Yeah.
so much that comes into the bigger picture. But what I'm trying to say is this, that especially for young women who are trying to achieve um, something that's not realistic, it's very difficult as sometimes to come from that point of experience at the other end of 10 years and saying, look, in order for me to be here, this is what I had to do, like step by step. Like every year was a little bit of growth, a little bit of progress. I think a lot of it's become harder and harder to explain to the, I don't want to say younger generation, but anyway, a younger generation that it's still, in as much, even though we have internet, we have social media, it's still the hard work. It's still steady does it, and it's still very much persistence, right?
Yeah.
So with you doing it for being a brand of 10 years, and now some people are just finding out about you, like what you just said, and you also perceive it to be that you are just getting started. Is this something that you always had in mind, like this is my long-term game? Like when you really went full time on R&R, you knew that it's going to be a long term, or did your mindset shift as we went along?
Oh, I definitely knew that I was in it for the long haul. For me, when I started
Right,
the business, I was thinking about generations after me. You know, as a
right.
PR consultant or PR professional, that ends when you're gone, you know, unless you
Yeah,
teach your skills, but it's not the same thing. It's really, for me, is that the brand can outlive me. You know, look at so many founders that don't even work for their brands anymore. They're founders whose
yeah,
names are on the brand and they're not even there, and the brand
Yeah.
still exists. That for me is legacy, and
yeah,
that's absolutely what I saw for R&R from day one. So that's why I would stick
Yeah.
around for this long, because it's not, I'm no overnight millionaire or anything. And they say it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, you know? So I'm waiting for that
Mhm.
overnight success, because then I'll know I've made it, you know? But it's
Mhm.
you've got to be in it for the long haul, and you can dip in and dip out, but it's not really going to achieve anything. And people, for the thing about social media is that people can see what you've done and really use what you've done as a blueprint, but no one can be you. So everyone
right.
has to find their own unique aspect. They have to put in their spirit into it. They have to make it their
Yeah,
own. If you're going to be a copycat brand, your shelf life is limited. I can promise you that
yeah,
immediately. But if you can see a gap or see a business that you think I would really love to do that, and you can create your own personal spin on it, go for it. But just know that you have to be in it for the long haul. This is not an overnight business. You know, people love to hear the success stories like Shea Moisture. We all know about
yeah,
how great that did, and they talk about how Unilever bought it for undisclosed sum, hundreds of millions or maybe even a billion. That's great, but do you know how many years they put into that brand before
right.
it sold for that, you know? So it's
Yeah.
the hard work that goes into it. The times when no one knew that you were working, or you were up late, you know, packing boxes in your house, or we started from my kitchen to my mother-in-law's garage to our own, you know, purpose-built factory that we opened last year, and we're now building another processing center in the north. So everything we make goes back into the business, you know, and building it. It's not about lining my own pockets or making me individually a success. It's about making myself, the R&R family, the community, everybody to be a beneficiary of this business, and for it to way outlive me or my lifetime.
Right.
Mhm. And aside from you explained that you had to get the packaging somewhere else, to fit your revamped, look. It's the total product of R&R Luxury producing in Ghana or
Everything
Nigeria?
is everything is produced in Ghana. Our headquarters is in Ghana. Our factory is in Ghana now. Lagos and Nigeria is now an outlet. It's we have a warehouse and a store and an online store there, but everything is produced in Ghana. We do bring in a few of our raw materials that simply we can't get here. But if anything we can
Yeah,
get in Africa, we're sourcing it here. And 99% of what is in our bottle is sourced from Ghanaian soil. So that's
yeah.
that's it. So it's pretty much the packaging. Like I said again, options are limited, and as soon as there are
Hmm.
options that are made available locally, you can believe that we will not be, you know, importing our packaging. But besides that,
Yeah,
everything, all of our raw materials, everything is made here.
yeah.
And
I love
that's
that.
the difference. That's the difference between our brand and a lot of other brands, is that many brands, even black owned, black female owned brands, they source the raw material, but they produce in Europe or they produce in
Yeah,
America. And you know, they have the beauty of having contract manufacturers with history that can create formulations for them and all sorts. But
Yeah,
our entire value chain is on the continent. So from the tree to the person that packs your bottle, you know, fills your bottle with the final ingredient and puts it in a box, all of that is done here. So other than the raw materials, we're also creating employment and, you know, helping the, you know, growing youth of Ghana and Africa on a whole, because we've got employees in Nigeria as well, to look after their families and, you know, to come out of the cycle and, you know, create a life of their own as well. So that's really important
yeah,
to us.
yeah. I
Do
love
you
that.
see?
So
Do you
looking,
see yourself?
yeah.
Do you see yourself as pioneer, or as perhaps being one of the leading companies in setting up an entirely new ecosystem when it comes to beauty, or cosmetic skincare being made in and for by Africa, all of that?
100% an early pioneer. Definitely not, maybe not the first, but I think you'll find most people are on one side of the value chain, not the
Yeah.
whole value chain. So either they're in the raw material processing sector or they're in the value addition sector, not both. And you do have one or two companies that are like that, but very, very, very few.
Very
So we're
few.
fortunate to
Right.
be in the minority, and we hope that more people do this because
Yeah.
it creates more wealth for the continent and doesn't take everything out as a raw material. So that by doing that, you create more jobs, you create a better economy for the country as well.
Awesome.
Absolutely, absolutely. You seem to also be involved, like what you do. Of course, people see it as R&R Luxury, the beauty business, but looking into who you are, I don't see that as the core of what you do. If I would describe it, it seems like you are the woman that brings, the qualities of women to life as it pertains to business and creating products and systems that are good for health, just good for you, because you seem to be involved into other charitable initiatives that you founded. Could you share a bit about that and how that relates to who you are as an entrepreneur?
For us, there's no impact. There's no success if you don't have successes. So impact is important, and you can't be successful on your own. And the
Yeah,
beauty of what we do and in using shea is that the people that process shea butter are women, and they're women that for the longest time have been at the real bottom end of the wealth cycle. They have lived in poverty for years, and although you've had all of these big brands buying the raw material from them, they still remain very, very poor. So for us, we it's very important, and this didn't wasn't something that we thought about initially. Yes, we knew, okay, we're helping the women in share, but when you look deeper, you have to look deeper at how you can really make a specific, you know um,
hmm,
specific impact on their lives and see how that can change permanently, not just for a moment where you're buying their shit from them and saying, okay, thank you, I paid you a good price for it. It's how you can actually change their entire lifestyle, which will impact generations and generations after them. So, for us, impacting the women on the rural side of things is really, really important. And also raising young professionals and entrepreneurs in itself, but also professionals, giving them career trajectories, letting them grow through the company. It's these things are important to us. And although we're a small company, we're also growing, and we make sure that our people grow with us as well. So
yeah,
with the charity side of things, we have the NGO arm of R&R, which is called the Women of the Savannah Development Project, and that is about developing the women of the Savannah who are processing our raw material. But I also am a founder of another foundation called My Sister's Keeper, which I do with my two sisters, and that we choose different projects on a yearly basis to see how we can impact different lives in different ways. And we go for projects that most people
hmm,
don't see. So once the center saw the impact they were having on the lives of these children who, for the most part, were being ignored and being put aside and being given um, I don't know. Africans, we can be spiritual about things, and they can,
yeah,
tell you that autism is a spiritual thing, it's an illness, and these
yeah,
kids, many families will abandon their children because of things like this. But yet, this company, well, this center, which is a complete, charity, made by this one lady, she'd been running it for 20 years with no help from anybody. So we met her, loved what she was doing, and we came in and helped her build a brand new center for her project. So that was really exciting for us, and we're going on to more
yeah.
things now. So yeah, it is definitely a part of what I do, and I think the more I grow, the more I can help people. The better in any single way that I can. Because let's face it, yes, there's business opportunities here, but there's also so
Yeah,
many ways that you need to help impact communities and people, living, on the day to day in the informal market.
sure,
Wow. I love that. Amazing.
absolutely. I agree with that. So before we round up, because I'm thinking of the fashion show, like what extraordinary things is she's going to witness today. What are some of like some surprises that you have, yeah, experienced along your way? And this is specifically focused on your journey in Nigeria and in Ghana, because we're now living in a time. I don't think our motherland is as hyped as to return now. But there is some a bit of realness that people should also get about returning and starting your business, making things happen. With that said, what are some of the surprises, both pleasant and unpleasant, that you've had along your journey as it relates to doing business on the continent?
I think the key thing is that people, they'll probably find that it's a lot better than they expect if they coming and doing business here and realizing that you've got a whole new market. You can be a big fish in a little pond rather than a small fish in a big pond, but they shouldn't come expecting everything to be perfect. It will be far from that.
Hmm.
But you have to understand that challenges are part of doing businesses and of doing business. There's no business without challenge, no matter where you are. So definitely the benefits outweigh the challenges, but you are going to meet some issues because we are developing nation. But at the same time, it's you have to come here. You have to understand the country. You can't just drop everything and run over and think everything's going to be perfect. You have to come visit, understand how things work, understand how structure of business works, how you can incorporate a company, what documentation that you need. Do you have to be living here? How much it costs to live in Accra? Because Accra is not cheap. Okay, what cost of comes back.
Hmm.
Sorry, yeah. You have to understand what cost of living is before you come. You can't expect to come here and you think, oh, everything's going to be cheap because it's Africa. It's not. It's a developing nation,
Yeah.
but definitely, property is expensive. And, but there's a great way of life. There's so many exciting things to do. There's great restaurants opening all the time. There's great bars and nightclubs. There's great people. So, you can meet amazing people, network with great people. And every Christmas, let me not just say Christmas, throughout the year, people are coming in and networking and doing stuff. So if you come too late, every opportunity will be gone. So don't wait too long. That's my opinion. Come back and see what
Yeah.
impact you can make on the ground. Bring your skills and your talents and your knowledge and see what you can create, whether it's with a group of friends, whether it's alone. First come and check it out for yourself. And if you like it, find out what it would take to do business here. And in terms of challenges, I wouldn't sit here and list what all the challenges may be because between Lagos and Accra, they're different set of issues. But everyone knows what our issues are. What are you going to do to change those? What are you going to bring to the table? Because we, as the African nation and as a continent in general, have so much to offer. So we want to know what you're bringing
Yeah.
to the table as well. You can't just come and think that Africa owes you anything. Everybody, it's a mutual relationship.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to come and do their part. And if you do and you put everything into it and you really believe in what you're doing, it's bound to be a success.
Mhm. Yeah.
Solid words of advice, words of wisdom. I have one question for you.
Yeah.
Ghana jollof or Niger jollof?
Do you really need to ask? Obviously, Ghana jollof. Even my husband knows that Ghana jollof is better.
Yay!
So, yeah.
That,
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Valerie. This has been amazing, super inspiring to listen to your journey,
yeah.
to everything that you've shared. I am sure that a lot of women are going to be inspired by this, and also a lot of the men that have been tuning in and commenting. So thank you so much for
Yeah.
this.
Thank you so much
Ab-
for having me. Much love to Amsterdam and the Netherlands for listening today. If anybody tuned in, it's lovely to have you
yeah.
tune in and hear from me. I really appreciate it. Do follow me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is at Valerie Oba.
Hmm.
We can communicate, we can chat if you've got any more questions, because I know we have to round up. Feel free to shoot them at me and I'll do my best to answer. But thank you so much for having me, ladies. It was great chatting with
Yeah.
you.
I've shared your Insta link on the timeline. And shout out to that network that you have on your
You
phone
see,
because
you see,
that can actually. What was
we got it
that?
together. We got it
What?
together. Don't worry, all of them are good. If you come, you'll see. We got
Because
LTE here. We're waiting for
I'm
5G
thinking
next. So
if I have to broadcast when I come, I'm like, oh gosh, what am I gonna do? But this is good.
I'll tell you.
No, we
Don't worry. We
coming
got
up. We're
everything.
coming up.
We got everything. So come and come soon.
All right. Have
Will
a great
do. Thanks so
evening.
much,
Thank
Valerie.
you.
Have
You're
a great
welcome.
evening.
Have a
Enjoy
good
your show.
evening. Thank
Bye.
you.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
All right. Well, here we are.
Why
Hey,
did you have
this
to
is
go
probably a
over
rec. We,
our network? Like,
no, that was a good one for real. That one was good. Like at some points, I was like, is this gonna come back? Is the the bundle finished? But then it was good. Like no delays, stuff like that. That was good.
that
Yeah,
was good.
yeah. So we actually managed to wrap up on time. Yeah, I think that should become my lifestyle.
I was like, let's try something new today and wrap up within an hour.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. Let's do that. Exactly. I'm excited for the conversations that we had, and we're working on things so that we also get our conversations on the podcasting platforms. I know we're busy, but we will manage that
we're going to
definitely.
get all of this to you because a lot of these conversations you want to kind of need to hear them again and kind of
Yeah,
the things that you didn't pay attention to and then all the gems that were being dropped, the second time you hear it, you're like, oh wow, or some of the things that you thought you understood and then you were like, actually this really makes sense. So I think it would
yeah.
be really great. So everybody look out for the podcast episodes. um,
Yep.
Feed your mind.
Exactly. So this was actually the Women About Business where we engaged to Valerie Obaze talking about African made products. That's our pride,
Yep, yep.
and building on world recognition. What else? Make sure that for High Radio is returning on this Saturday, so make sure that you catch us up on our social media platforms for the relaunch, and make sure that you follow me, Miss Abba, and Kimberly Ofori. I know you've left Instagram a bit like as it is, but make sure that you follow Kimberly on Instagram at Kimberly Ofori, so that we can get engaging with you. We would love to hear your ideas and love to hear your requests or maybe suggestions, because we're growing this into a community of women being about their business. I have to give a shout out to Eben Ewa. I always say that's my unofficial manager for making this conversation happen. This is he's the male that's for women empowerment and really connecting us to impactful women from the continent that are just doing awesome work. So shout out to you, Eben. I'm giving you a call very much soon. Also shout out to Charlotte Amasewa, who's given us an applause for this show. Make sure that you share it on your timeline, spread the word. If there's something that you want another entrepreneur to hear, make sure that you spread the link around. And also to another, because the males are actually low key loving it. Okay. Uh, Isaac Anakwa, who's saying, great work, ladies. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that was it. Women About Business. Make sure that you meet us on Tuesdays from 8 p.m. And see you until next time. And thank you again, Kimberly, for being on board.
Thank you for making it happen. All right. Have a good
All
evening.
right. Have a good evening. Bye bye.